Log on to Coin TV's Channel 6000 website at coin.com.
Belgrade under the bombs, and NATO takes the blame for at least some of the carnage in Kosovo, but presses ahead with its heaviest air raids yet. Major explosions rock this capital city under siege.
This is the CBS Evening News, with Dan Rather reporting tonight from Yugoslavia.
Good evening from Belgrade. NATO acknowledges responsibility for that deadly airstrike on a country road in Kosovo, but blames the Serb leader and his ethnic cleansing for putting the refugees in harm's way. The story and the pictures have handed Slobodan Milosevic a propaganda victory of no small proportions, but that has not stopped the NATO alliance from stepping up the air war yet again. Here in Belgrade, they're angry and shaken.
Belgrade was bombarded again and again last night, perhaps the heaviest night of attacks the city has seen since the air campaign began. We could hear the blasts. They were on the outskirts, but they rocked buildings all the way to downtown. Today, Belgrade's mayor and his English-speaking deputy mayor gave us a tour.
A lot of local municipal buildings and also the residential houses are destroyed inside, because the impact is something like earthquake of 6 to 7 degrees.
But the actual factory impact sites just over the hillside weren't on the itinerary, at least not for a foreign reporter. This following yesterday's tragedy, in which some 70 civilians, many of them refugees, were killed when a NATO jet attacked their convoy. Although NATO insists it was a mistake, Serb officials have been calling it a deliberate act, a war crime.
This is the worst and the meanest illustration of a humanitarian disaster brought to this brave European nation.
And here in Belgrade, there is no mention of the fact that the refugees were on the run from the Serb military in Kosovo. It is a propaganda triumph for the Milosevic regime, which has turned the tragedy to their advantage in the war over public opinion, which certainly here in Belgrade, Milosevic is clearly winning. But still, the Serbs seem to be holding out, if not an olive branch, a trial balloon today.
We are genuinely interested for the political solution. And read my lips, peace is what we want.
NATO gets the message, but NATO has consistently said it will settle for nothing less than full compliance.
With more about the tragedy involving the attacks on the convoys, here's CBS News national security correspondent David Martin at the Pentagon.
NATO now admits one of its planes did this. How it happened, as told by the pilot himself, is a story not just of a horrible accident, but of ethnic cleansing in action. He is an American flying an F-16 just north of Dakovica.
I found the first village that had been set on fire. It looked like it had been burning for quite a long time and was about to burn out. Then as I moved further south, I see the next village south on fire, pressure fire, still burning vigorously.
In an audio recording describing what he saw from an altitude of 15,000 feet, the pilot gives new meaning to the antiseptic satellite photos of burned-out villages.
I see another house that has just been set ablaze, and I spot a 3-vehicle convoy. They come to a stop at the next house down the road, and I'm convinced now they're preparing to set this next house on fire.
Armed with laser-guided bombs, he moves in for the attack.
I make several passes over these vehicles to ensure that they are, in fact, military vehicles. I make a decision at that point that these are the people responsible for burning down the villages that I've seen so far.
Although NATO frequently shows gun camera video of direct hits by laser-guided bombs, the video of this attack has not yet been released. The pilot drops one bomb, then, still unaware that these vehicles are in fact tractors pulling refugees, calls in another plane to continue the attack.
He now spots 3 large trucks in the middle of the compound next to where we had just attacked.
This is what a single bomb did to that compound. Serb TV is showing pictures of what looks like a second refugee convoy which was also hit, but which has not yet been explained. The Serbs call it an atrocity. Allied officials say the Serbs are ultimately responsible.
How dare they now produce crocodile tears for people killed in the conflict which they themselves are responsible?
A conflict still getting bigger. Pentagon officials say that in order to keep the air war going, they need authority to call up more than 30,000 reserves and to keep people already on active duty from leaving the service. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Refugees continue bringing their own stories of horror on the road during their flight to the relatively safe haven of Albania. CBS News correspondent Thalia Souris has filed this report for you.
Exhausted and traumatized, survivors of the attack on the convoy crossed the border into northern Albania today. They told of the terror they witnessed on their journey. This woman's 18-year-old daughter, Tatiana, was killed. My daughter was lying badly wounded on the tractor, she says. I went to her, but she couldn't talk to me. Her 15-year-old son remains in deep shock, unable to speak since the attack. Rukman Bayran was in the convoy with 16 members of her family. One of her sons is still in hospital in Kosovo. Another died in her arms. I went to him, she says, and put his jacket under his head. I put a blanket over him and then watched him die. Word of the convoy deaths shocked the refugees already in camps in Albania. Still, many of these people, whose own plight remains so desperate, say NATO must continue its attacks against Serb targets. The bombing must not end, said this man. Instead, he says, NATO attacks should be intensified. Otherwise, we'll lose more people there. Others found it hard to believe that NATO could have targeted the very people its mission is to protect.
I don't believe that they will make such mistakes. No. But I think that the Serbs have done this massacre.
That more Kosovars will be killed in their attempts to reach safety may be inevitable. Yet, despite the apparently increasing danger, there are fears that the exodus of refugees, which had slowed in recent days, will once again escalate. Thalia Souris, CBS News, Albania.
President Clinton today pressed the need to stick with the NATO air campaign. His forum this day was a gathering of newspaper editors. CBS News Chief White House correspondent Scott Pelley reports.
In San Francisco, the president forcefully defended his pilots and policy. The deaths of the refugees were regrettable, he said, but also inevitable.
You cannot have this kind of conflict without some errors like this occurring. This is not a business of perfection. If anyone thinks that this is a reason for changing our mission, then the United States will never be able to bring military power to bear again, because there is no such thing as flying airplanes this fast, dropping weapons this powerful, dealing with an enemy this pervasive, who is willing to use people as human shields and never have this sort of tragic thing happen. It cannot be done.
Mr. Clinton appeared before the nation's newspaper editors, and in this time of war, he became angry when questioned about his moral authority to lead the troops.
I am this commander-in-chief, and they swore an oath to the Constitution, and they have performed admirably, and they don't deserve to hear that.
Today, a new CBS News poll shows support for Mr. Clinton's policy, but also concern. 59% of those polled favor the bombing. 29% oppose. On committing ground forces, there is a near-even split. 45% favor ground troops, 46% say no. Overall, more than 80% agree that victory is months, perhaps more than a year away. Mr. Clinton said a decade of Balkan war must end now in Kosovo. To that end, he advocated the ouster of Milosevic, saying the Serbian people must now embrace democracy and put an end to what he called this belligerent tyranny. Scott Pelley, CBS News, with the president in San Francisco.
In a moment, I'll be back with more from here in Belgrade.
We're here with grades 3, 4, and 5 to help you remember 10-10, 3, 4, 5 long distance, where calls are always 10 cents a minute. So what's that number?
10-10, 3, 4, 5.
Excellent.
Dial 10-10-345 today.
Sis, I snooped in your medicine cabinet. So? You switched to X-Lax.
Yeah, Correctol works with an artificial chemical. X-Lax works with natural senna.
Very effectively, too.
You tried it.
What a find.
What a snoop.
Good morning, guaranteed.
I never met a dog I didn't like, which is a good thing, considering some of the occupational hazards my friends put me through.
This is mine.
This is Herman. Ooh, what do we have here? A tick. That's why I choose Frontline for these guys. Frontline's the best, because it's the only one that protects them from fleas and disease-causing ticks, too. Sorry I kept you waiting, no matter who your best friend happens to be.
For fleas and ticks, veterinarians choose the front line of protection.
Okay, one more time.
Somewhere there's an empty chair at a seminar. The Civic sedan from Honda. What about now?
War developments in the air and on the ground or front and center on Capitol Hill. CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Bob Schieffer reports.
Top administration officials fanned out over Capitol Hill with exactly the news an increasingly skeptical Congress did not want to hear, that the bombing may drag on through the summer.
This is not going to be quick or easy or neat. That this is very risky. There's a high risk of casualties involved.
That news did not go down any easier when the Congressional Budget Office reported the bombing campaign will soon be costing $1 billion a month, plus another $300 million monthly if ground troops go in. Republican leaders have been tempering criticism to give the bombing a chance to work, but frustration in the ranks is growing. In the House, the Secretary of State was chastised for misreading the Serb dictator from the start.
He should have been stopped long ago. I think this administration has made a botched-up mess of trying to do it.
A senator told top defense officials the bombing will make it harder, not easier, for Kosovo refugees to return home.
Relocate the refugees? Would we ask a survivor of Auschwitz to return to Nazi Germany? As long as the Serbs are there, you're going to ask the refugees to come back? I don't think so.
And tonight, the first serious sign Congress may try to rein in the operation. Congressman Lindsey Graham is circulating a resolution to bar sending ground troops to Kosovo, and he says the first person to sign it was Floyd Spence, the influential chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. Bob Schieffer, CBS News at the Capitol.
The refugee crisis continues to threaten to overwhelm the small country of Macedonia on Kosovo's southern border. Correspondent Jim Axelrod reports from Macedonia on the situation there.
They sit powerless. Another 1,000 refugees hoping to cross to safety, huddling in the mountain chill on the Kosovo side of the border, while the Macedonian government decides their fate. This is a sin, says this man, here to meet relatives. They are small children, and it's cold. It's the upside-down world of stop-and-start migration on the Kosovo-Macedonia border. Here, a Serb soldier can cross the barricade to chat with his Macedonian counterparts, but refugees in search of security cannot, going unsheltered for 24 hours because the Macedonians say the camps are full. The UN has informed the Macedonian government there is enough space in the camps. Then why are they keeping the people here for 24 hours?
Can you tell me? No, I don't know. I think, I don't know.
The border gives Macedonians a sense of control in this crisis, even if it may be more illusion than reality. This is a country with limited resources and its own delicate ethnic balance. They'll take any kind of control they can get. This is what they fear. Another ethnic Albanian family finding refuge not at the camps, but with relatives already living in Macedonia. The Mashovits family has 29 people in a 3-room apartment. For many Macedonians, these are the faces of the country's newest threat.
They were flooded in just a few days with over 100,000 refugees. If that number came across the border into Texas, you know, I think you'd hear complaints.
The Macedonians finally let a few of these refugees in, here, where fear and suspicion often stop the traffic on the road to help. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, on the Kosovo-Macedonia border.
I'll be back later in the broadcast with more from here in Belgrade. Coming up next on the CBS Evening News, John Roberts in New York with some of the rest of the day's news. So stay here with us.
If you look really closely, it kind of looks like it's smiling. Intrigued by Oldsmobile.
I can eat corn on the cob, and I can eat the apples as long as I've got super polygrip on these dentures. I know that it works. I mean, it holds my teeth in place. Using the super polygrip, I can continue auctioneering. Bid 35 and now bid of 40, now 5, 45 and now bid.
From a small quad to a major problem. Next time, call a trained roto-rooter plumber to fix it.
I'm 64. Is there anything I can do to stop bone loss?
Absolutely. Here's proof. In a landmark clinical study, Caltrate actually stopped bone loss in women at risk for osteoporosis, whatever your age.
It's never too late for Caltrate.
Life's an adventure because you're over 50 and still exploring. So take the Centrum made just for you, Centrum Silver, with age-essential nutrients specially adjusted to keep pace with your changing nutritional needs. Centrum Silver, it's a great time to be silver.
The stereo sounds pretty good, too. Intrigued by Oldsmobile.
Abduction attempts at Portland police warning women to stay alert. We'll tell you what to look out for. And grocery shopping without leaving home. We'll show you how it works tonight at 6.
In Salt Lake City today, a man with a gun walked into the Mormon Church's Family History Library and opened fire. As some of the people trapped in the building managed to escape, police SWAT teams searched for the gunman who killed 3 people and wounded several others. The gunman eventually was also killed in a shootout with police. There was no immediate word on the man's motive. The findings of several long-awaited studies are out tonight on the use of bone marrow transplants to treat women with advanced breast cancer. The results are mixed and inconclusive and bound to touch off new debate over the cost of cutting-edge medicine and who pays for it. 8 years ago, Marie McCook underwent an experimental procedure to treat her breast cancer. Extremely high doses of chemotherapy, followed by a transplant of her own bone marrow stem cells to rebuild her immune system.
I really don't think I'd be here without the transplant.
But the new research out today found that she may have done just as well with conventional treatments.
Our results suggest that there is not a major benefit to transplant over conventional dose therapy.
There were 5 studies in all. 2 were in patients with advanced breast cancer. 1 found no difference in survival. The other showed a slight benefit to high dose, but the group was small. In 3 others, where patients had cancer with a high risk of spreading, 1 found no difference. 1 showed a clear benefit, and 1 had mixed results.
What people would have liked, I think, is a yes-no. And we haven't got very many yes-nos in medicine, and this is certainly not one of them.
Doctors had hoped that because of the increased risk and expense associated with high-dose chemotherapy and stem cell transplant, that it would have shown clear-cut benefits. So from that standpoint, this new research is disappointing, but by no means is it the final word. Researcher Charles Hesdorfer complains the studies haven't run long enough to really answer the question.
I don't think doctors are going to know what to do. I think patients are going to be totally confused as to what to do. And there's going to be an incredible fight as to what the data really means at this point.
All sides, including health insurers, are supporting a call for more research. But finding those clear answers will take years. For now, leaving women and doctors with only a best guess on a life and death decision. Later on tonight, 48 Hours will bring you a very different story about medical experiments. Erin Moriarty has a preview.
She went to the hospital for treatment. Did they tell me any of the risks? No. Instead, doctors experimented on her.
We trusted the doctor.
Shocking abuses in human testing. Ultimate risk. Later on 48 Hours.
48 Hours is on at 10/9 Central Time here on CBS. Up next on the CBS Evening News, frightening moments on board a jumbo jet. You'll hear the tape.
Information for healthy living.
Well, it started in my hand. Now I feel it in my knee.
Kay Cook is one of over 20 million Americans with osteoarthritis, the most common form of arthritis. Researchers have discovered that the pain and stiffness of osteoarthritis are not caused from inflammation, as once thought, but from the gradual wearing down of cartilage, the shock-absorbing tissue in the joints.
I was surprised when the doctor told me it wasn't inflammation.
If you have osteoarthritis, what should you do? Experts recommend exercise for strength and flexibility. And if you have pain, experts recommend the medicine in Tylenol Arthritis Extended Relief first. Tylenol Arthritis works up to twice as long as regular aspirin without the risk of stomach irritation.
I have arthritis, but I don't let it stop me.
If you have the symptoms of arthritis, talk to your doctor. You can get relief.
Tylenol House Call is brought to you by Extra Strength Tylenol.
Spectracide Grass and Weed Killer works in 24 hours. The other brand takes a little longer. Actually, a lot longer. Spectracide works in hours, not days. That's why weeds can't hide from Spectracide.
I see we're getting quite a jump on this.
Has just made like a sort of a recent move in the last 3 minutes.
How's your day going?
How are the pharmaceutical stocks doing?
First thing on the docket is to get as much information as I can.
Yeah, let me check it.
For average daily volume being 27,000, so it looks like we're on track. So I can provide our clients with the best detailed information possible.
We're going to help them with all the research and all the information that we have here.
There's some regulatory legislation going to have adverse effect on their stock.
Chart looks good.
Checking with you next week.
Sounds great. Nice talking to you. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend, too.
Thanks.
It's spring break. Hot tubs everywhere will be overflowing. Make sure your deck can take the heat with Thompson's Wood Protector. For rain, sun, mildew, it's the most powerful Thompson's yet. Thompson's Wood Protector. It never takes a day off.
She went to the hospital for treatment. Instead, doctors made her part of an experiment. She says it ruined her life. 48 Hours investigates tonight.
A dramatic update tonight on the story of a convergence of mechanical and human failures that nearly sent a United Airlines 747 jumbo jet plowing into a California mountain last June. CBS News correspondent Bob Orr has the San Francisco control tower tapes and the story they tell.
United Airlines Flight 863, a Boeing 747 like this one, took off last June 28th from San Francisco International Airport, bound for Sydney, Australia. Just seconds after leaving the runway, the captain alerted controllers the jumbo jet was in trouble. KCBS Radio obtained the FAA tower tapes.
We've lost an engine. I'll be proceeding out the 295 and returning.
With one of its two right engines out, the jetliner had trouble climbing and remained so close to the ground, controllers lost it on radar.
Is United 863 still? Oh, there he is. He scared me. We lost radar. I didn't want to give you another airplane if we had a problem.
Oh, you going to keep him or you going to give him back to me?
No, he's supposed to be on you, isn't he?
I haven't heard from him.
Okay, I'll try him again.
Right.
Sources tell CBS News the co-pilot, who'd only made one takeoff in the previous year, made a series of mistakes and nearly stalled the jumbo jet. United Flight 863, filled with 307 people, headed right for San Bruno Mountain. With cockpit warning signaling an imminent crash, the plane cleared the mountain by as little as 100 feet.
We'll let you go on up to 5,000, United.
The jumbo jet dumped fuel over the Pacific and returned for an emergency landing in San Francisco.
We do want equipment standing by just as a precaution.
The plane landed safely, but the incident has prompted United Airlines to revamp its pilot training with a special focus on getting co-pilots more hands-on flying time. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
Major air turbulence in Georgia today. It took only minutes for a tornado to cause this extensive damage. Up to 70 homes were damaged or destroyed. About 14 people were injured. And you could see the tornado's path just by following line after line of trees that were knocked to the ground. In London today, a prince became a godfather. Prince William, the 16-year-old son of Prince Charles and the late Princess Diana, took on his new role at the christening of Prince Constantine, newest member of the exiled Greek royal family. William is second in line to the British throne. On the CBS Market Watch, sales and earnings are down, so the Mattel Toy Company is taking 3,000 workers out of the game. Target will be adding jobs as it opens 35 more discount stores for a total of 916 in 44 states. And talk about easy payments, the FCC voted today to require phone companies to make your bill simple and clear. On Wall Street, it is now 4 record highs in a row for the Dow. In a moment, Dan Rather will be back from Belgrade with some thoughts about finding the truth in the fog of war.
All right, kid. Here we go. 10-9. What do you got? What do you got? What? Yeah. All right, come on, come on.
What would you do if someone you loved had a heart attack? Did you know it's now been proven that the same Bear aspirin you have in your bag for muscle aches may actually help stop you from dying if you take it during a heart attack?
Downtown. Lucky shot.
Can your pain reliever do that? Talk to your doctor now.
Next time I'll go easier on you.
Bear, powerful pain relief and so much more.
Every second, every minute, every hour. Your plants are nourished continuously when you use Osmocote plant food. Osmocote has extended time-release granules, so just one application, once a season, is all it takes. Osmocote plant food. All your plants need, all season long.
Farming, it's America's heritage, but every week over 500 family farmers go out of business, losing their land and their livelihood. Here's a way you can help. Just dial 1010-220 when you make a long-distance call. All calls up to 20 minutes are only 99 cents, and 1010-220 will make a donation to Farm Aid every time you use it. So dial 1010-220 and you'll get up to 20 minutes for only 99 cents, and you'll lend a helping hand to some hard-working American farmers.
Around here, we like to eat. And we're tired of feeling guilty because we like to eat things that taste good. The folks who make craft salad dressing must have read our minds. They've got a bunch of dressings called Light Done Right, with half the fat of the regular kind, but they taste better than anything light has a right to. Light Done Right. I guess they just know what we like. Around here, the dressing is craft.
What's sometimes called the fog of war doesn't bury the truth, but just conceals it for a while. The fog lifts and the facts emerge. NATO's painful acknowledgement today that its aircraft did strike that refugee convoy with horrible consequences is part of that process. Journalism's job is to push the process along. The aim is not to take sides. It's to be an honest broker of information and an advocate for the truth. That's an uncomfortable challenge for any government in crisis, and especially here in Serbia during wartime. You should know that government restrictions determine what our cameras can shoot and when. That includes even requiring permission to stand here and speak in this spot right now. 2 policemen came up a moment ago to check our permission. And yes, reports coming out of this country are subject to censorship. From both sides of the battle line, getting the facts is part of our challenge each night. And getting them out fairly and accurately is also part of our challenge. For the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather reporting. From Belgrade, good night.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the internet and on our interactive partner, America Online, at keyword CBS News.